Council, we're going to start the meeting. Welcome everyone to the ordinary council meeting of the 21st of December 2021. Members of the public gallery should note that council records and publishes council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the online web form should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please, could gallery visitors and council ensure that their mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Now, just before I do the acknowledgement of country, I'll just check we have one of our councillors, Councillor Crosley, online. Councillor Crosley, can I just check that you can see and hear me? You might...
Take yourself off mute, Kit.
You're not on mute? No. No.
Just bear with us, Mayor, and we'll see if we can resolve that issue.
Just one moment, Councillor Crosley.
Perhaps the sound of the beach is over this.
Can you hear us now, Councillor Crosley? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, I can see and hear you all.
Thank you very much. Now, if we could stand for the acknowledgement of country and the prayer, please. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Apologies, we only have one, which is Councillor Ripper. Before we continue with any more of the meeting, I thought it only appropriate that we acknowledge three things that have happened recently. I'd like to call on Councillor Rossetti for the first one.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to acknowledge Monsignor Orman, who passed away last week at his funeral at St Mary's and St Michael's on the weekend and on Monday. He was actually ordained as a priest in Sale in 1951. So spent an extraordinary 70 years as a priest and then moving his way through the church, based primarily in Sale and Traralgon, and he certainly has been a significant figure for not just Catholics in the community but many others. His funeral reflected on his service to the church, but also his love of horse racing. In fact, betting slips were placed into his grave at the end of his service to acknowledge that part of his life as well. But rest in peace, Monsignor Orman.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. I'd like to also, I think it's fitting to acknowledge what happened in Devonport. It was actually horrific what did happen to the people of Devonport. I think our hearts all go out to the community there, so I think it's only fitting that we acknowledge the terrible incident that happened there. Also, I'd like to pass on our condolences to Pauline Duncan. John Duncan just passed away. John was a previous councillor. He was elected in the term for 2012 and he served as a deputy mayor in 2015. So condolences to the Duncan family in this time. But I'd like to, on note of those three things that have happened, if we could stand up and do a minute silence. Thank you, everyone. Now, before I continue the meeting, we do have Jenny O'Neill in the audience, and Jenny would just like to come up and say a few words, rather than keeping Jenny for the whole meeting.
I didn't come to say a few words publicly, but I just wanted to say, in a very difficult year, I was really delighted that Council took the chance on the Archibalds and also the Sculpture Awards, and it was an absolute delight to see the town buzzing. We recently went to Melbourne, and people who would normally go where Sale had actually been here, and it was something, yet another thing to be really proud of, because what we also got to do was showcase the wetlands, the walkways. I volunteered one day at the Powder Magazine and the Water Tower, and returning people as well as new people who couldn't believe the resources and the history we have. And it was all because Council took a chance on the Archibalds. So congratulations and thanks very much.
Thank you, Jenny, for those kind words. Yeah, the Archibald was amazing through COVID times. We ended up with nearly 26,000 visitors that went through the Archibald, which is just amazing to actually see with all the problems that has happened in the community. So our hat goes off to our team to put on such a great event, not only just for the facility we sit in now, but also for the greater community. And as Jenny just said, the visitors were all amazed, and many of them are coming back again. So great event, thank you. Declarations of conflict of interest, I don't believe we have any. Confirmation of minutes of the previous council meeting. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 7th of December 2021.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Happy with that?
Nothing further, thank you.
Business arising from previous minutes, I believe we have none. Acceptance of late and urgent items, I believe we have none. Notices of motion, I believe we have none. Receiving of petitions or joint letters, there are none. Invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. Councillor Marr.
I have something, Mayor, thank you. I would like to acknowledge the Wellington Staff Achievement Awards of 2021, which recognises the staff who have provided excellent customer service throughout the year. There were 5 categories, and the winners I would like to acknowledge as number one for leadership was Carly Bloomfield, customer focus, Ashley Smell. Relationships, there were 2 winners, Megan Bai and Claudia Oswald. Innovation, there were also 2 winners in this category, Amy Coleman, Tracy Parker and Kim Seller. And 5 was sustainability and Joe Raw. Each one of them have certainly contributed to the Wellington Shire and how we are viewed by our community. And I would certainly like to congratulate each and every one for this effort. I also congratulate the many others that were nominated and weren't successful, but as far as we're concerned, everyone is successful, and well done all. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Questions on notice? I believe we have none. Mayor and Councillors report, item 10.1. Do we have someone to move that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to move that the Mayor and Council report be noted.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mayor.
Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. November was a special month when you think that 2020 and 2021 have been pretty tough from the council and being able to connect with our community. And November was probably one of the first months that we were able to go out and see the community and have connections and just see what they're all about and hear their stories. And it was from the 18th of November to the 30th of November, councillors had 9 online meetings, and the benefit was that we had 15 in-person meetings, which was really encouraging. So we were able to meet our community. And what was really good too was the amount of councillors that did this and was on either online or in person. And some standouts were we were able to go to the residential opening of the Miradong Service facility in Yarram. We were able to finally have, after many times of cancellation, was the official opening of the Cameron Sporting Complex and Stadium Redevelopment Project in Mathra. One of the delays was the Sale Tennis Centre opening. That was a real success. The civic reception recognition of Gippsland Lioness Clubs in Sale and the Lioness Club Convention official opening night. And close to my heart, the Yarram Debutante Ball. And finally, we're able to go and see one of our communities and do a day session in Yarram at the Councillor Community Conversation. So, again, it's been a tough 18 months for everybody, but it's great to be finally getting out, and hopefully 2022 will allow us to get out more and see our community, which we've really missed a lot of. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Mackenzie. Item 11.1, Youth Mayor's Report. We have River here, the Deputy Mayor. I'd like to invite River up just to read out her report.
Good evening, councillors. This year, the Youth Council has overcome many obstacles. Things like freely being between online and face-to-face meetings, inability to hold events, and the challenge of engaging young people in Wellington online. Our social media presence is something that we have greatly improved on, made necessary as we have been unable to engage young people in a traditional manner. We have spent our time cultivating engaging social media posts and infographics about the things that we have been up to while in lockdown. When I started writing this report, we've only ever held one event to date, the successful Queer Ball, which we held between lockdowns. But as I finished this, we've also been able to hold one of our key events, Upswing, which is a youth mental health wellbeing festival. We had a lot of support for Upswing this year, and it was a fantastic team effort, which enabled us to quickly move the event. We were enabled to move the event from outdoors to an indoor location at the Sale Memorial Hall. Nobody wanted another postponed event, so we just kind of had to make do. All youth groups supported by the Shire participated. Axios, which is the renamed Opal group, which supports LGBTQI members in our community, young people. Hedge, a group of homeschooled young people, and Propeller, providing the live music stage. And of course us, the 2021 Wellington Shire Youth Councillors. In every area, Upswing 2021 promoted the 5 ways of wellbeing, which is something that is really important to us as a team. We decided to adopt the 5 ways of being as a framework for the 2020 Upswing Festival, believing that we would be able to provide a consistent message for the festival over the years. Over the last year, our relationship with the Royal Melbourne Hospital Health Promotion Team and the health prevention framework that is the 5 ways of wellbeing has really grown. Youth Council is now a partner with the Royal Melbourne Hospital and the 5 Ways program. And the Shire has begun a project with Vic Health, which is aimed to introduce Wellington's 5 ways of wellbeing to all of our secondary students. This will begin next year. We are wanting everyone to have a common understanding of what we can do to stay mentally fit. The 5 ways are pretty simple, and they're just 5 things that we can all do to stay mentally fit, which is connect with others, continue learning, be active, be aware, and help others. Being fit does not mean that we won't become unwell, but we will certainly do better. We will certainly be in a better place to recover more quickly. Over the last few weeks, I've been involved in interviewing applicants for the 2022 Wellington Shire Youth Council. I really enjoyed this experience and was blown away by the enthusiasm and passion displayed. I believe it's going to be a really active year for Youth Council in 2022. Next year's Youth Council team were at a planning and leadership camp with East Gippsland's youth ambassadors last week. I heard it was really busy and productive and fun, obviously. And on behalf of the Youth Councillors, I'd like to thank Councillor Stevens and Councillor Ripper for attending. From the 2021 Wellington Shire Youth Council team, I'd like to to thank the Wellington Shire Council for the continued support of us in this program. It's amazing, and we have all learnt so much about ourselves and our community through this program. Thank you.
Thanks very much, River. Can I get someone to move that report? Councillor Wood.
I move that Council receive the Youth Mayor's quarterly report.
And could I have a seconder? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Wood.
No, nothing more.
Nothing more? Item 13.1, the Chief Executive Officer's report. Can I have someone to move that motion, please?
Yes,
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to move that the Chief Executive Officer's report be received.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. As with our councillors, our Executive Officer, Mr David Walker, also does online and in-person sessions during the month. And from the 4th to the 30th of November, David did 15 onlines and in-person 10. So again, we're seeing to be able to get out and meet with our community. And some of those significant ones were to attend a breakfast with the Federation University regarding our communities, our environment, where it was an opportunity to learn about the significant work researchers across Victoria's campuses are doing locally, nationally and internationally. As well, David was able to attend the attendance of the Remembrance Day at Maffra Cenotaph for the wreath-laying service. He also, on the same day, attended a One Gippsland delegation meeting with the Honorary Minister Jacinta Allen, Minister for Transport Infrastructure and the Minister for Suburban Rail Loop. And one other significant one was attending the One Gippsland Mayor meeting and induction of the One Gippsland November board meeting. And as I said, there was many other meetings that David also attended, along with councillors, such as the Conversation Day in Yarram. So it clearly shows that we have a CEO that just doesn't sit behind a desk. He certainly gets out and interacts with our community. And I'd like to congratulate David on being a fantastic ambassador for the Wellington Shire and leading not only us and supporting us as councillors, but certainly supporting his team in that regard. And finally, I wish to say a Merry Christmas and have a fantastic 22 for all our community in Wellington. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Mackenzie. Item 14.1, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 29th of November 2021 to the 12th of December 2021.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Happy with that? Yes. Item 14.2, Audit and Risk Committee minutes. Do I have someone to move that?
Yes,
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive and note the minutes in brief of the Audit and Risk Committee, 24th of November 2021, Attachment 1, and the confidential attachment Audit and Risk Committee minutes of 24th of November 2021, Attachment 3, and also point 2, the information contained in the confidential document Audit and Risk Committee minutes of 24th of November 2021 of this Council meeting agenda, and all the rest of that motion as set out in the agenda be taken as moved. Thank you.
Do I have someone to second that motion? Councillor Mackenzie. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. I'd just like to make a few short comments about the Audit and Risk Committee meeting on the 24th of November. We welcomed a new independent member to the committee, Sarah Heath, and congratulations, Sarah, on your appointment to the committee. There are a couple of the highlights, Mayor. There are a number of internal audit reports presented by our internal auditors. There was one on financial systems control, another on the management of our health and safety, and there was also an internal audit report on the internal audit report, because from time to time we have a follow-up to just consider how matters are going and whether or not we've implemented all the recommendations. As per usual, there were a few minor issues that we needed to consider from those internal audit reports, but basically all the major items were well under control. So, I mean, it is an important part of our audit and risk committee function to receive those internal audit reports and review just what is happening inside the council organisation. There was also a review of the Audit and Risk Charter. We are required to do that every 12 months, and there were some minor changes recommended which are in this agenda. There was also a major report in relation to our procurement policy, which was reviewed in detail, particularly by the independent members of the Audit and Risk Committee. And at the finish, I should just note that, Cassandra Sandyman, our Coordinator Procurement, was thanked by the committee for the presentation she had made to Audit and Risk. So I think just summarises that basically overall, all our audit and risk functions are proceeding very satisfactorily, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Item 14.3, adoption of the procurement policy. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, moving on to the procurement policy. I would like to move the Council approve and adopt Council's revised procurement policy as attached.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Tatterson. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and I'd just like again to thank Cassie for the work she's done on the procurement policy. This is a very detailed document. I will be asking questions, so I hope everyone has actually read through the document like I have a couple of times. I don't know if I can answer any questions. It's very interesting and fascinating, Mayor, that the way that these matters have evolved over a period of time. We are required by the Local Government Act 2020 to at least once every 4 years produce or develop and produce a procurement policy. You will note in the preamble to this policy that as of today it has been adopted and we don't have to review it again until 21 December 2025. It's very comprehensive. The days when you could perhaps have a procurement policy and say under $100 you'd buy it out of petty cash, $100 to say 5,000 you get one quote, and over that you'd call a tender, seem to have long gone. It's now there's a whole heap of ancillary information that we need to include, everything from conflicts of interest, forward control, detailed issues about how we get value for money, how we bring our contractors and suppliers along with us. It's a big item. There's a lot of work gone into this, and thank you for the work that's been done, Cassie. It's one sad thing for me though, Mr. Mayor, is that I found out we're trying to phase out petty cash. Now, when I was a boy in local government, I used to manage the petty cash tin and the $40 and the petty cash book. I think the big green ledger book. Yeah, just about. Yeah. And I think the petty cash limit was $40 then, which was a huge amount of money many years ago. But apparently those days of handling cash are just about behind us, Mayor. Anyway, on a positive note, I commend the procurement policy to councillors. It'll serve us in good stead over the next 4 years to guide how we purchase all our goods and equipment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Item 14.4, adoption of the 2022 Council Policy Manual. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council revoke the existing Council Policy Manual and replace it with updated 2022 Council Policy Manual as attached.
And seconded by Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Wood.
Mayor, Council maintains a policy manual containing policies formally adopted by Council. These policies are also available individually on the Council Policies page of the website. Periodically, Council policies are reviewed and modified as requested due to legislative, strategic, planning and procedural amendments, and the policy manual is updated to reflect these changes. As new policies are developed, they are also included in the policy manual and obsolete policies removed. The complete policy manual is reviewed annually and presented to Council for consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wood.
Mayor, could I note there that now that we've accepted that, we now have the new feature and place naming policy in place, which is a brand new policy, which means that when we get requests from time to time for places to be named after people who've passed away, for instance, we now actually have a way of dealing with those requests.
Which is great.
Yeah, which is terrific. So certainly thank you, Councillor Wood, for moving that motion and for the councillors for accepting it, because that's been a long time coming from the hard work in Place Names Committee.
Very true. Well done.
Of course.
Item 15.1, the Quarterly Building Report, July to September 2021. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council note the report of building permits issued from the 1st of July 2021 to the 30th of September 2021.
And do I have a second for that? I might give Councillor Crosley the opportunity if she'd like to second that to see if she's still awake there.
But on mute.
Yes, she's got a hand up. Thank you, Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Marr.
358 permits were issued between July 2021 to September 2021, with an estimated total of works at just over $50 million, which is pretty good. The major projects include Lock Sport, construction of the commercial building and multi-unit development. I'm sure the Lock Sport community will be very grateful for seeing that going through. And Sale, Central Gippsland Health has a multi-unit development, as well as at Stevenson's Park. There's a change room upgrade that I'm sure the football club and cricket and every other netball that they will absolutely enjoy that. And I know, having watched the netballers walk back and forth from the shed to one end of the ground to the other, they'll certainly appreciate that. Wellington Parkway has also a development of a warehouse and new truck centre, which I'm sure plenty of people will be certainly happy to see that. Yarram, the shade sails over the pool is very much welcome and has certainly been something that's 15 years in the making. And there's also elevated residential development through Sale, Maffra and Longford. So it's all certainly happening in Wellington Shire. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Item 15.2, Quarterly Strategic Land Use Planning Update, Q4 2021. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council receive the fourth quarterly update on the Strategic Land Use Planning Work Program included in Attachment Planning Project and amendments to this report.
Can I have someone to second that? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Marr.
For those of you who have read this report, you will see that the current projects, North Sale Developer Contributions Plan, West Sale and Warwick Industrial Land Strategy, Port of Sale East Bank Redevelopment Strategy, Maffra Structure Plan, a review of planning controls, RAF Base East Sale, Port of Sale Precinct Master Plan Review, Residential Land Supply Stocktake, and the Wellington Growth Management Strategy. All are progressing well. Some, they're all at different stages. I know that the Maffra Structure Plan will be coming to Council in the new year for approval. Look, there's many pressures that we are certainly recognising within the community and from stakeholders that are looking for residential and industrial land. Council is actually, they've got a lot on their plate with regard to this and a lot more work to come. So this certainly wouldn't be done without the the steering from our General Manager, Brent McAllister, and I certainly congratulate him and his team, and I know that they're all working very hard behind the scenes to get this work over the line. So we look forward to what 2022 brings, and hopefully, our community members will certainly be able to see the hard work that they have put in. So well done all.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Item 15.3, adoption of the Wellington Shire Complaint Handling Policy 2021. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you. I move that Council adopt the Wellington Shire Council Complaints Handling Policy 2021.
And can I have a seconder? Councillor Rossetti.
I was complaining. Sorry.
Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I guess by developing this policy, we acknowledge that any person has the right to make a complaint. And this policy sets out a framework of how we deal with it responsibly and in a timely manner. So it's a really important policy to make sure that everyone is treated fairly and in a timely manner.
Most certainly. Thanks, Councillor Tatterson. Item 15.4, October 2021 monthly planning decisions. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council note the report on recent planning permit trends and planning application determinations between the 1st of October and the 31st of October 2021.
And do I have someone to second that? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Marr. Happy with that? Item 15.5, proposed purchase of 107 Flamingo Drive, Golden Beach. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to acquire, purchase by agreement, property described as 107 Flamingo Drive, Golden Beach, more specifically referred to as Lot 2982, LP 56682, Volume 8391, Folio 589, for the amount determined by the independent assessment of the market value following consolidation.
Do I have someone to move that? I'll second that, I mean. Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Council was approached by the legal representative of the owner of this block of land, and the block in question is adjacent to other blocks the Council has already got ownership of, which together will form a restructure block under the terms of the all the block redevelopment along 90 Mile Beach, and so the Council agreed to proceed to purchase this block at the valuation agreed by independent assessment. So we will then be able to consolidate this block into, yes, what is commonly referred to as a restructure block for future potential sale. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Item 16.1, sloping bridge widening, Pound Road West. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2022-049, sloping bridge widening, Pound Road West, Alberton West, and to the remainder of the paragraph as read.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Marr.
This bridge is located on Pound Road West at Alberton West and crosses the Albert River, and is certainly one that I have travelled many times. It's currently a single lane bridge. However, the works will widen it, making it a dual carriageway, which I think those that use this bridge regularly will certainly appreciate. It will certainly improve the usability and its safety for the users. Thank you.
And if I can announce the successful tenderer is Jarvis Norwood Constructions. Well done. Thanks, Councillor Marr. Item 16.2, annual Kerb and channel program. Do I have someone to move that?
There you go.
Well, two councillors standing up.
No, I think it's you're going to do
Councillor Tatterson. Don't all fight at once.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained within the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting of the agenda for contract 2022-056 annual Kerb and channel replacement program and item 2 as written.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Before I go back to Councillor Tatterson, I'd like to announce the successful tenderer as Contour Constructions. Congratulations. Councillor Tatterson.
Just to note that it's really important that we maintain our infrastructure. Council are a large provider of significant infrastructure, and this curb replacement program will obviously be really appreciated in those where the curb's reached the end of its life, and they'll certainly notice the improvements happening in the areas.
Most certainly. Thanks, Councillor Tatterson. Item 16.3, Delegated Authority, Duke Street Road and Drainage Construction, Yarram, McMillan Street Reconstruction Works, Stratford, Abels Road and Boyles Road, Longford. Councillor Rossetti.
I was getting tired standing waiting for you there. I move that one Council Delegate Authority of the Chief Executive Officer to enter into contracts for the following projects subject to the tender price being within budget. The 2022-063 Duke Street Road and Drainage Construction, Yarram, and 2022-064 McMillan Street Construction Special Charge Scheme, Stratford, and 2022-070 Abels Boyles Road Construction Special Charge Scheme, Longford. 2, the Chief Executive Officer provide details to Council of contracts awarded under this delegation. Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Rossetti. Thank you, Mayor. This is part of the tender section of our agenda today, where we've been awarding tenders, but in this case, because we've got such a big gap between now and our next meeting at the start of February, the tenders are expected to be evaluated during the period where Council's not here. So rather than waiting on these very important projects, we've just delegated to the CEO to sign off on those and let us know how they go, who's been awarded them afterwards, as long as they're within the budget. But it's great to see all these works taking place. They're all improvements to our communities around Yarram, Stratford and Longford. Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. Mr CEO, do we have any further gallery or online comments?
No, Mayor. We have received, excuse me, a follow-up from Mr Alan Hayward from Pearsondale just in relation to a previous question he posed in relation to traffic along Foster Street, but we've responded to that this week and a copy will be provided to all councillors. Thanks, Mr CEO. Before we move into closed session, I'd just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, the general community, our ratepayers, and thank everyone in council. Our team is amazing. I think we've all earned a little bit of a break over Christmas. I hope you have a safe and happy one over that festive season, and we'll see you back in the new year. Councillor Rossetti. Thank you, Mayor, and I'm sure we're all on the nice list. I move that the meeting be closed to public pursuant to Section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider matters under Section 66(5)(b) as defined by Section 3(1), being A, council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, and G, private commercial information, being information by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that, 2, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage. Thank you, Councillor Rossetti. So we'll move into closed session. Thank you, everyone.